how different she would be as president compared to her Democratic rival, Senator Bernie Sanders. She is pushing Sanders to explain his grand plan to simplify health care across the country. Would it scrap what is now known as Obamacare? Would it mean more taxes for you? For now, it means escalating the taxes for both candidates. Certainly, CNN's Brianna Keeler joining me now. So, Brianna, Iowa's coming close. Hillary Clinton's polling not looking great. She's reaching out to her husband. Is this a sign? I won't say desperation, but is it a sign that it's sinking in, they may be in trouble?
Well, this is something that I think was probably in the works as they got closer and the polls did tighten. But, you know, what's really striking, Jim, is that in the past, Bill Clinton has been one of Hillary Clinton's biggest defenders. He's defending her for sure, but he's not as sharp-tongued this time. He's really shoring up support for his wife, but he's leaving that criticism of Bernie Sanders to his wife and even his daughter. Hillary Clinton's so-called not-so-secret weapons something in Iowa today.
She's the best knowing how to find common ground, and then if you make her to stand her ground.
As the race tightens, Bill Clinton so far is staying away from attacks like the ones he leveled at Barack Obama in 2008, an approach that ultimately backfired.
This whole thing is the biggest fairy tale I've ever seen.
But Hillary Clinton is unleashing a blitz of criticism, calling Sanders' plan for a single-payer healthcare system unrealistic and expensive. Today, Clinton accused Sanders of purposely withholding details about how he would give all Americans health coverage through Medicare, effectively eliminating private insurance companies.
Basically, what he's doing is saying, hey, we need to start all over again. Let's tear it up and replace it. Details to be forthcoming. And another big national divisive debate, which I just don't agree with.
Sanders says he does not want to scrap Obamacare.
Clearly, despite the gains of the Affordable Care Act, we have got to build on it and go much further.
Some estimates say Sanders' plan will cost taxpayers $15 trillion. So far, he hasn't offered specifics on how to pay for it, but he says those details are coming before the Iowa caucuses.
We will come out to that. We'll have an outline for that, certainly before Iowa.
With the race in Iowa a dead heat and Sanders commanding a big lead in New Hampshire, he's dismissing Clinton's stepped-up rhetoric as sour grapes from her campaign.
They're mad at me today, they're mad at me yesterday, mad at me tomorrow, they're going to be mad at me for a long time.
Will they like me? No.
They're mad because of this.
There are two Democratic visions for regulating Wall Street. One says it's okay to take millions from big banks and then tell them what to do.
An ad highlighting Clinton's ties to Wall Street and his promise to break up the big banks. The Clinton campaign accusing Sanders of breaking his pledge not to run negative ads, a charge Sanders rejects.
You're looking at a public official, a U.S. senator, who has won elections and I've lost elections, been in a number of elections. I have never run a negative radio or television ad in my life.
Maybe these two campaigns will just have to agree to disagree on that. But both candidates are spending some time getting ready for the next debate. That's this Sunday in South Carolina, and everyone is going to be watching to see if this new combative tone that we're seeing between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders finds its way onto the debate stage.
Nice fights inside both parties. Brianna Keeler, thanks very much. Joining me now is Hillary Clinton's press secretary, Brian Fallon. Brian, thanks for joining us today. It's good to have you on. I want to ask you about a particular argument. Hillary Clinton going after Bernie Sanders, saying that his plan threatens Obamacare, but in reality, his plan being a single-payer healthcare system is frankly bigger, more expansive than Obamacare, which many in the Democratic base want. So isn't that in some ways ultimately a failing argument to criticize him for having a bigger idea, in effect, for healthcare?
No, here's where the disagreement is, Jim, on this issue. Both Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders strongly support universal health care, as does President Obama. This is something that the Democratic Party has fought for decades, and with the Affordable Care Act, we made a tremendous advance towards that goal. I think that the debate in this campaign right now is over the fact that while Hillary Clinton has put out a detailed proposal on how she would build on the Affordable Care Act, Bernie Sanders has gone around suggesting that he's for a single-payer system that he won't put any details out to describe. And so...
This for Hillary.
Is that he hasn't given the specifics as to how he'd get to that goal. That's what
Well, if he puts forward the details, and again, this is a signature policy prescription that he has, that he talks about in almost every campaign event, so it's quite strange that 2 weeks before Iowa, he's unwilling to release the details. As Brianna just detailed, it's likely to cost upwards of $15 trillion, and that in turn would necessitate tax increases on middle-class households. So just in the spirit of a fair exchange and debate of ideas, the voters of Iowa should have the opportunity to see the impacts that it would have on their tax bills and make a judgment whether they
Call me on my cell phone.
Okay, let's get a little bit to the poll numbers.
Late night when you need my love. Call me on my cell phone.
Granted, he's Republican, but he blamed Hillary's
Late night when you need my love.
The reason I ask this is that is a criticism that has not just come from the Republican Party. You've heard it from some inside the Democratic Party as you watch those numbers. What's your answer to that criticism?
I just don't think it's true. And we'll see when the Iowa caucuses take place. But I'm confident that the ground operation that we built in Iowa is second to none. We were there earlier than anybody else. It's more intense than anybody else's ground organization. If you sample Democrats in Iowa, they will confirm that they get more phone calls and door knocks from the Clinton campaign than anybody else.
But the numbers don't reflect that hard work, if the hard work is true. And I know Hillary Clinton called the early polls that the numbers have now dropped off, her support has now dropped off from, she's called them artificial, but it's a momentum game, is it not? And the momentum, as you head into Iowa and New Hampshire, does not appear to be with your candidate.
Oh, the race has been pretty consistently tight in both Iowa and New Hampshire, Jim. And this is a natural thing. If you look at the polling back in April, even when the lead was much faster for Hillary Clinton, mostly based on the fact that she was a known quantity and had just come off of her tenure as Secretary of State, was not yet viewed in a political context. Even back then, Democrats were consistently saying they wanted to have a competitive process. They didn't know who the opponent was going to be, but they wanted a competitive contest.
Who wants to see the numbers drop as you get closer to the beginning primaries?
Well, this is a natural thing that's going to take place whenever you get into the closing weeks and voters start to pay closer attention. We're confident that at the end of the day, that Des Moines Register poll that showed a 2-point lead for our campaign showed that I think 40% of folks are still deciding. Even those that identified as supporting one candidate or the other are still making up their mind. And we're confident that in the closing weeks, the final consideration for a lot of those voters will be who can best take on the Republicans, not just in November, but as president, to get things done in Washington. And I think that the more that consideration enters into their mind, the more they're likely to side with Hillary Clinton, who can get things done. So the high stakes, I think, will factor into voters' decision-making in the end.
Okay, you probably heard last night the Republican candidate Carly Fiorina very critical of Hillary Clinton. Not the only one, but listen to part of her opening remarks. I want to draw attention to this. Have a listen.
I'm not a political insider. I haven't spent my lifetime running for office. Unlike another woman in this race, I actually love spending time with my husband.
Ouch. I mean, what else can you say? But let's be honest, it's likely a taste of things to come if she makes the